Tim Hauraney on the Tour to Tim, and it's a pretty wet spot in Montreal today. Raining like crazy. Supposed to rain this weekend, although forecasts in Canada are never reliable. So, no. Tim, it was bad today, though.
It was bad on the way back. So I was, before we jumped on here to start recording, I was telling Adam, like, we went, we got back from the track, quickly went to grab something to eat because I wanted to get back and do the pod, and just absolutely dumped on, and I got absolutely soaking wet. My hair is still just starting to dry out. All of my clothes just absolutely they're sitting beside me. They're just soaked, like absolutely soaked.
Well, I mean, that's great. And it bodes well for a race weekend when all you get is rain in the forecast. Belgium came early.
Yes.
Yeah. So listen, Tim.
Like I was saying though, Adam, like there's no way they would have, like, before you and I came on to do this,
no
like,
one was
there's
running
no
today.
way they would be running in the rain that came down tonight. No way.
So hopefully over practice tomorrow, we're going to we'll get some fun practice, some slicks or whatever. I don't know if it's going to rain fully, but, Tim, the thing is that you've been, for whatever reason this year, the Montreal Grand Prix worked out to be a pretty heavy newsworthy thing. And it's not even, I mean, we haven't even hit free practice 1 yet. Mm-hmm. It starts with some fallout from Monaco, which is Esteban Ocon and Alpine have agreed to go their separate ways. And we haven't had the chance to really talk about this, but Bruno Famin did say, and he's the team principal at Alpine, there would be consequences for Ocon's move because he had been instructed evidently before that not to fight his teammate. He did, and now they're going their separate ways. What do you know, and what do you think?
Well, I sat with Esteban today, so we all got to chat with him a little bit, and I think so. We had talked about this on the pod, Adam, last time out, and I think a big thing was I'd said that he's not going to be benched for the Canadian Grand Prix, and he's not, and Duan's probably going to come in and take the seat at some point, and that means next season. And sure enough, he's getting his first free practice one of the season, and then. We come to find out that Esteban and the team mutually parted ways. Now, some folks seem to think that there was other things going on, but Esteban was pretty flat out in saying that it was a mutual agreement. He went to the factory last week. They had a chat. They sat down, him and Bruno Famin. They had some discussions. He said one thing led to another. He said the conversations never got heated. And he said basically they both agreed that it's probably best that they go their separate ways. For him, he kind of made it sound like, look, 5 years is a long time at one particular team. I kind of wanted to interject on that because there are other drivers who, i.e. Lewis Hamilton, who have been on teams for longer than 5 years and have made it work out pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think for Esteban, the direction that the team has been going in may not have been the way he wanted it to go. So what do I mean by that? I think performance-wise, Adam, I just think that
it's not a good
have seen and we've seen so much turnover at the team, right? There has been a lot of turnover at that team since Otmar was let go last July, at the end of July, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, at the Belgian Grand Prix, last Belgian Grand Prix. And I think for him, all of that turnover has not only made him unsettled, but just unsettled the entire team. And I think for him, it's just kind of like looking at the writings on the wall. Maybe this team is not going to be as good as it thinks it is over the next few years. I've been in Formula One for XYZ years, cut our losses. Let's see what else we can get. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to Haas, Adam. I really do. I said it on here. Last week. I think he's going to Haas. I have that feeling. I think that's a good fit for him. I like it. Haas is losing a driver like Nico Hülkenberg, who brings a ton of experience to the team. And you need to replace that. You need to replace that with talent, and you need to replace that with experience. Esteban has both of those. And as well, on top of all that, he's been with a team that's had to go through growing pains, right? He has. I mean, Renault, when he jumped over there, they were going through growing pains, sure enough. So same with Force India, right? So he's been on teams where he's had to kind of help them bring a car along. So he knows what he's doing, right? So I think for Esteban Ocon, as tough as it is, he may have made the right decision here.
Well, and it may have been the way it went anyway, but I have a hard time believing, maybe at the factory, Tim, things didn't get heated, but I have a hard time believing in Monaco when he was called upstairs that things didn't get heated.
I bet you things got real heated then. Yeah, for sure.
So it's nice that everybody's playing nice, because it is better for both sides if both sides say, oh, it never got heated, it's a mutual decision. They both have something to gain from this. Alpine does not want to be seen as unstable, which they are. And Esteban doesn't want to seem like he's unprofessional or in trouble. Whether he's unprofessional or not, I'll let the internet debate that. But he was in trouble. He did get in trouble. And to me, Alpine allowing him to say it's a mutual decision, I don't believe that for a second. I think that I do think that you're right. He probably was going to Haas anyway, but I think this was Alpine going, wherever you go, it won't be here. And sometimes relationships run their course, right? And this is a guy that has had trouble with every teammate he's ever had. And it's not because I'm a big fan of his driving. I don't even really have an issue with him not getting along with his teammates, because it's Formula One. That's par for the course, baby. But I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this, Tim, and I'm going, yeah, but you can't cause stupid accidents, right? It's the stupidity fine. So I like him at Haas too. I think you're absolutely right on that one. That's going to be, if that happens, it's a great fit. And I actually think there's something about that Haas car where you're like, well, the Ferrari engine looks good. They seem to have figured some regulations out. If he has a good year or two there, you never know what happens at one of the top teams. He is a very good driver.
For sure. I think it would be, I said this on SportsCenter earlier today, but it would be a shame if Formula One were to lose him. Like if he were to not be able to get back into a seat for next season, and he's got to go do WEC or something else. Not that there's anything wrong with WEC. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But to lose him in F1, something that he's worked so hard to get to, and just his backstory, if folks are interested in learning more about the guy, there are some really great podcasts that guy has done. You can find them. They're fantastic. What him and his family has had to go through just to get him into F1. I said it to him to his face a couple of weeks or last month. I said, look, I have a massive amount of respect for you because of how hard and what you had to go through to get to F1, because I know exactly what that feels like. And I said, I was just happy for him that he was able to break through and get in, right? And it would be a real shame if F1 were to lose him from the grid. There may not be. There may be people out there who are like, they don't like him because he's an aggressive driver. I mean,
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, like that's I like it too, right? And I think we need more of it. I will go back on what I said. I'm not going back on what I said about Monaco. That's a move that I would have done. There's a lot of racing drivers up and down that grid who would have done that exact same move. If there was an agreement, which it sounds like there was, then he probably shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, there's a gap, man. You got to go for it.
Yep. That's racing. And you know what I like about that, Tim? I'm glad you're sticking to that point, because you took some heat for it. And what I appreciate about that is your perspective on that is going to be different from ours as fans. As fans, we're all sitting on our couch going, I would never do that. Well, listen, my paycheck and my career and my sponsorship dollars has never been based on the points accumulated in a year. So it's difficult for me to really know. Of course, I'm going to continue to judge harshly, because that's what fans do. But I do really like that viewpoint on yours, and I'm glad that you're sticking to it. And good on you on that one, because I think that is a perspective that challenges people's views on this. And I think the demonizing of Esteban Ocon has been a little much. I think the other side of it too, where his fans are like, he's never done anything wrong in his life, has been a little much. This guy has pissed off, and rightfully so, the best racers in the world. And listen, Max Verstappen, who was also a very aggressive, pain in the ass driver when he started, pushed this guy after a race. Like, there's a reason for this stuff, right? And so I think at the end of the day, this is a very good driver. I'm excited to see what he does. And it would not shock me at all, Tim, if in 2026, we're talking about Esteban Ocon being at a top 4, top 5 team because he had a great couple of years at Haas. Now, moving on to another driver that everybody's talking about and has been since the start of the year is Carlos Sainz. Obviously, we now know that with Perez's 2-year deal, which was just announced, he's not going to Red Bull. Mm-hmm. There was the Mercedes seat. Apparently, they still don't seem to know what's going on. There's the Kick Sauber seat, which is going to turn into an Audi seat, which Hülkenberg's taken one. They've apparently made a huge offer to Carlos Sainz. But the team that really nobody pegged him for at the beginning of the year that has arisen is who, and what do you think?
I will look, first off, we talked about this. We talked about this, Adam, on this show. I told everybody that, you know what, Red Bull wasn't going to be the direction that this driver goes in, right? Mm-hmm. It's not. I always thought that Mercedes would have been a great fit for him, but Mercedes weren't willing to give out anything longer than a year's deal. And he wants more than that, which is understandable. He needs long-term security. And I get that. So he gets a big offer from Sauber and it's long-term, but then Williams enters the chat. So I sat down and spoke with Carlos about this today. And you know what? For Carlos, he hasn't signed anything yet. So there is no deal in place with any team at the moment. It's flat out what he said to me. He said, Tim, I haven't signed a contract yet. Fair enough. He said, but I will be letting everyone know my plans reasonably soon. So hopefully before we get to the summer break, we'll know more. But if we boil this down, Adam, when we take a look at Sauber and Williams, Audi coming into Sauber to take that program over in 2026. That is going to be just a difficult few seasons, I think, for Audi, because any new team or any new engine manufacturer getting involved in Formula One always takes a really long time to get up to speed, to be competitive, to get your ducks in a row, and to make sure that you have the right infrastructure and the right crew working on the car and getting you going in the right direction. When you look at a team like Williams, internally, it's an older factory. They have a lot of older equipment in there. That's something that James Vowles is pushing heaven and earth to get moved out and new stuff moved in. And you take a look at that 2026 regulation and the partnership that Williams has with Mercedes in terms of the engine, the power unit. If Mercedes, and Alex Albon said this to us earlier today, because I sat in on an interview with him as well. Flat out, it's if Mercedes has built or is building or can build another incredible power unit to start off this regulation, Williams is going to be in a good position. They're not going to be like winning races. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be in the top 10 because for Alex, he feels that, a big part of this new regulation, which is something we'll get into in a bit, is the engine component to it. So for Carlos, if you're looking at all of that, it's that picture, right? It's like, okay, proven commodity, Mercedes engine, proven team that is now starting to fight its way up the grid every season. It has gotten better. Williams Racing, serious team principle, knows what they're doing, serious infrastructure, or serious change that they want done to the infrastructure. That's real. If I'm Carlos Sainz, I'm laying all this stuff out on the table and taking a look at it and who has the better future. And this is no offense to Audi. No. None whatsoever. No. It's the fact that it takes a while, Adam. It just takes a long time. Career trajectory,
right?
exactly. So I'm looking at if I'm Carlos, I'm definitely considering this Williams deal.
I'm just looking something up here.
Yeah.
As you're saying this, list of Williams F1 drivers through the years. Okay. So I want to look at because this is a team that is absolutely one of the most historic teams and has won a ton of races, and it's been amazing. But if you look at what their lineups have been, I'm going back to 2010. You got Rubens Barrichello, Nico Hulkenberg. Not bad. Then Rubens and Pastor Maldonado. Then Pastor Maldonado and Bruno Senna. Then Pastor and Valtteri Bottas. And then Bottas and Massa. And then Bottas and Massa again. And then a third year of that. Then it goes Massa, Stroll, Sirotkin, Kubica and Russell. Russell Latifi, Latifi Albon Sargent, and Albon Sargent. This will be the best Williams lineup, I would say, if this happens, since what?
Really long time.
Maybe Mark Webber and Nico Rosberg?
Yeah, that was a fairly strong driver pair. Even both were pretty young. Yeah. And very new to Formula One. I would say, like, you know what, Adam? You remember,
like, Ralph Schumacher, Jensen Button? Like, how far do we want to go back?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, even like what, Juan Montoya and Ralph Schumacher, like that was something. The BMW engine, then that was a really great car. They took it to Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari team a couple times. I would say when you take a look at 2014, 2015, and 2016, that's when that Mercedes power unit was very strong, very dominant. And you look at where Williams was, right? They had some pretty strong seasons, very strong. If you go back and you take a look at some of the records from that, and I think, you know, with this new regulation, I don't think we're probably not going to see dominance like that. But that being said, if Mercedes is able to come out swinging with a good power unit to start off the year or for the first 2 years, that's a good move for Carlos Sainz. It's a good move.
Yes. Yeah. And for James Vowles, a coup.
Great point.
And he's been a revelation for this team in not necessarily in the same effect that Fred Vasseur has had on Ferrari, but you think about where they were under Franz Tost. Yost Tost? No. Is it my?
Franz
do I have that wrong? Yeah, Franz Tost. No, not Franz.
Or are you talking about Jost Capito?
Jost Capito. That's why it's late at night. That's why I can't. Yeah, Jost Capito and before. You remember that? Remember the scene from Drive to Survive when Claire Williams still owned the team, and they had to fly the parts in. They weren't ready for preseason testing. I don't remember who the team principal was.
Patty Lowe.
And she stares daggers through him. Do you remember that? I was like, I can't believe we got this on TV. This is crazy. She wants to kill him. And he was a technical director, and he was brought over from Mercedes because he was a big part of their championship winning cars. And so I want to say that's 2018. I believe that car was it 2018 or 2019. Oh, I can't. Maybe it was 2000. It was 2019. I think it was, because I think George. It was his first season at the team, and they missed the first week of winter testing. A whole first week. Jeez, which is just devastating.
Oh, that was crushing for that team. No, not at all. No.
Yeah, and so they were losing sponsorships and all the things that, especially since Toto and Susie left, right? Once they left, it was very, very difficult. The Strolls helped support things for a bit, but not easy times for them. When you look at what James has done in the last 2 years, it's amazing. It really is. And if he's able to land Carlos Sainz, I wonder about Adrian Newey. Now, again, Ferrari, I get it. But Adrian was at Williams with Mansell winning, and who else won? If I go back and listen to Williams, Nigel, I think Alain Prost won. I think Damon Hill won. I think Jacques Villeneuve won.
Jacques Villeneuve won. Yeah.
Like, is there something about a homecoming there? I don't know. So I just look at that and I go, man, James looking pretty good right now to have a lineup like that next season. Woo! I like that.
I mean, big time. And also, Adam, if you look at what James is doing, right? If he doesn't get Carlos Sainz, he's going to get Valtteri Bottas,
which is great. That's a great catch. Great catch. Yeah. And I wondered, with the last year of the regulations, and obviously Williams has had their issues behind the scenes with tubs and stuff this year. I wonder if they're going to be able to go, okay, we're going to zero in now, and we can get into the top 5. I wonder about that. And speaking of regulations, Tim, you happen to be in Montreal, and they happen to be releasing the 2026 long-awaited new technical regs. And so there's been a lot of conversation about the first thing that comes to my mind is there's going to be a push-to-pass button, but it's not going to be the way that we think. Like, how's that all going to – what's going on? Tell us what we need to know.
Oh, Adam, I haven't. There's so much to these regulations. I haven't even had a chance to really sink my teeth into them. I can give you broad strokes on it.
Give me broad strokes.
I was in the back of a van trying to skim through this massive document so I could put the news out, and then also I've had interviews out the friggin' ears today, interviews with drivers. So I haven't had a chance to really sit down and go through this entire thing. But I think one of the things that I take away from it, Adam, is that DRS will be gone.
Okay.
It won't be around anymore. There will be active aero, both front wing and rear wing. That's not essentially for DRS. There will be an what is it called? It's like a manual override button or something like that. Essentially, it'll be like a push to pass, right?
Okay.
And the driver can deploy it whenever they sort of see fit within a lap. There's no certain zone where the driver has to deploy it, which is kind of nice. I like that. That's smart. Cars are going to be lighter, not 100%, super
30
light.
kilograms, they said?
I think it's 30 kilos. And then the wheelbase is also shortening as well, which is good. And that's something you and I have talked about considering everything in Monaco. But for the drivers, I spoke to a couple of them about it. Some drivers are kind of torn. They're kind of like, look, the direction we're going in is the right direction. It's just it's not a big enough step. More weight needs to come off, and the cars need to get even smaller. They're still way too big. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things for these regs is that it really seems like they're putting the engine before the aerodynamics, or they're putting the engine before the race car, where, usually it's the other way around. Usually they've always done car first, power unit second, worry about the aerodynamics of the car first, and then the engine regs will work those out. With this, it just seems like they've decided they've done it totally backwards. And so I don't know, Adam, if these are going to be brutal race cars or if they're going to be great. I don't know if this is going to be a home run or if it's just going to be an error. I would hope that, this is going to be a home run. I think the FIA and Formula One and the drivers have all worked together for the most part on these regulations, which is, saying a lot because they never used to do that. And so everyone having input into these regulations means everyone has a stake in this, which is great. I think that's awesome. I also think that acknowledging with the 2022 regulations, you didn't really get it right, but you got some things right, but you learned a lot of things that you really messed up. And now you can fix them with 2026. I think that's also smart. And I think that has to do with following. How can the car trailing follow in front, pass? We see good racing, all that kind of stuff. My only real issue, Adam, is the engine stuff. The engine regulations are...
it's 50-50 hybrid now, right? Did I get that right?
Yep, 50-50 battery and internal combustion engine, and then you also have synthetic fuels for 2026 as well. So,
Okay.
I mean, I think a big thing with that, like, yeah, here's the other thing.
Tell me.
A big thing with that, right, Adam, is that essentially you look at synthetic fuels and you want it to be, if you're someone who participates in creating petrol and things of that nature, you're now going to have to start looking at trying to get involved in biofuels, synthetic fuels, because if F1 and their partners can get this thing right and they can get it to a point where it's a drop in and go, then you've really got something here for the average consumer. And so then that makes me question, does that then make this turbo hybrid 2026 engine regulation obsolete?
Okay.
Why don't you go back to V8s?
And, well...
Seriously, though, think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here for good racing. You're here for great entertainment. I mean, at some point, you got to start looking at all those things, I think. And if there's a way that you can get synthetic fuels working properly, that's a huge win. That's massive, man.
Oh, huge.
Massive.
Well, because in the past, and it hasn't happened all the time, but a lot of what is used in racing, not just Formula One, but elsewhere, is often tried in racing and then used in road cars eventually, right? And so I think hybrid was somewhat a part of that, although Adrian Newey poked some holes in that in his book. I don't profess to know engines all that well.
Neither do I, man. So.
Yeah, it's just not my technical expertise, but he kind of says, well, the way we're doing it is not really going to be conventional road car stuff. That was, that book's almost 10 years old now. So, who knows? But I would say that, Tim, I like the fact that they're using those fuels. I think it's cool. And if they can make it happen, that's awesome. The one thing that happened today, and I know I'm going to say something about Lewis Hamilton that isn't going to be popular, but I think I'm right on it. Lewis doesn't like change. And so when he was talking about it, he was like, well, I know some people that drove the sim and they say the car is slow. And we're 18 months out, and he's far more in touch than we would be. However, I also know that Lewis doesn't like change and is probably going to be like, give me some speed, and they'll probably find it, I think. Don't you?
You would hope so.
Okay.
Honestly, Adam, again, it just comes back to, I haven't dug into looking at how complicated the engine regulation is. I think from just distilling it down to having a quick read, a glance, speaking with some people, hearing from some of the drivers, some people like it, some people don't. Some folks are of the opinion that these cars are going to be slow, and some folks are on the opinion that they think they could be pretty quick. But does that mean that the car is actually going to be quick because of what you've done with the aerodynamics? So you have to remember, so I don't even remember this, but in 2017, we went from one aero regulation and dramatically changed it into something totally different for 2017, which made the cars so friggin' fast. And that was done because of aerodynamics. Like, a huge part of that was done because of the aero regs that they came out with for 2017 that carried us on, right? That carried us into 2021 until we had the massive regulation change for 2022. But that regulation, Adam, the one from the 2017, that's when we started to see some of the fastest race cars we have ever seen, combined with a hybrid power unit. So just put that out there for now.
Okay. All right. So the jury's out. Is that fair?
For sure it is. I mean, we have to wait and see what these things are like when we get them on track. Have to wait and see what teams are saying about dyno testing. There's just so much to go on this. We still have a year and a half?
Yeah.
Before we see these things online. That's a long time. And so right now, not a lot of background data knowledge to really gather from all of it. But I mean, I'm excited to see where it goes. There's no question about that.
Okay. Now, Tim, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you're in Montreal. Let's talk about your personal life, Tim. What's your favorite color?
Preferential.
First memory. No, I want to know
memory.
What's your schedule like, man? Like you're you're with TSN, who carry the race. The official F1 partner in Canada. So you got that going on. Okay.
Buddy.
You got a bunch of interviews set up. You obviously talked to Carlos Sainz today. You talked to Esteban today. Who are you talking to tomorrow? What's the rest of the weekend look like? Tell us. We're living through you.
Tomorrow. So Friday. What do I got on Friday? Friday. We are going to do some show and tell. So we're going to get some access to, I think, Red Bull Racing's car. I believe myself and Marissa are going to shoot some content around the F1 car. We're going to talk about some of the new upgrades, if at any at all, Red Bull has brought. And then we are going to cover Free Practice 1, Free Practice 2. We have a sit-down interview with Toto Wolff in the evening that I'm really looking forward to. And that will be Friday. I would say like Friday is probably our more quiet days. I mean, today was like, it was nonstop go. And we were doing there was interviews, interviewing drivers just left, right, and center. It was wild, man. It was just like your brain's thrown in a blender. It's hit the super speed, and away you go. That's usually what these days are like.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think that's pretty much it, man. Saturday, got to cover qualifying and all that kind of stuff. And then Sunday's the race. But, big thing, Adam, I think is just weather. Like, I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Everybody says it's going to rain. I did get rained on pretty good. I didn't bring the right clothing. Like, I have a rain jacket, but not proper footwear. And I only brought one pair. I brought a pair of running shoes, and I brought a pair of walking shoes that I use for the paddock. And those are soaked to the core. So I don't know what I'm going to do for tomorrow. I'm literally, dude, as soon as you and I are done this, I'm literally going to get a hairdryer and jam it into my shoe and just hit it full blast and see what I can do.
Well, it's nice to know that it's not just all glamour on the road, Tim, because you're following a very glamorous sport. So it does,
great.
Ultimately, everybody thinks you're staying at a 5-star hotel and you're eating big meals and partying with Lewis Hamilton and drinking AG1.
None of those things. None of those things. Okay. The hotel, actually, we're in a nice place.
That's good.
We got a really good place. I am extremely fortunate the place we got. The crew we're working with from TSN is top notch. Everybody's absolutely awesome. The restaurants that we've gone to so far have been really good. Not bad. But yeah, we got questions. I don't know if we got a couple minutes to take some questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So David at Daver_16 asks, is the World Drivers' Championship battle back on? And have we seen the peak of Max Verstappen's career? Adam Wilde, what say you?
Okay, as a fan, we have not seen the peak. I think we've seen one of the peaks. Is that fair? Is that a fair point? I think the Drivers' Championship this year is a bit of a mathematical tough one, but I think Constructors is on. Is that fair?
Definitely.
Constructors
100% agree with you. 100% agree with you, Adam. I think it was funny. I was talking to Charles Leclerc, and I kind of did the Frederick Vasseur thing to him, where I basically said to him, look, you and I chatted in Bahrain during testing, and I asked you if you guys were going to be able to catch Red Bull Racing, and you pretty much told me, look, relax. I'm like, and now we take a look. So I brought it back up to him. He started dying laughing, but he was like, yeah, okay, this championship is pretty much on. He thinks the drivers championship is just a tiny, tiny bit too far away just for now. But again, I remind folks, we're round 9? We have 24 rounds this year. Like, we have so much more to go. Like, this thing is not over. From at OHL Steelzo, I just wanted to read this one out loud at him because actually it's a good one. Is Carlos Sainz to Williams a gigabrain move? They have a Merc PU for the new regs. They are a team that's on the upswing, and you know what? You're going to get with them. Seems like a much better seat than Audi at the moment. I just thought that was a good one. Wanted to throw it out there because that was a very well, but it was a very well thought out. From
hold on, Tim. I want to say one thing.
thing. Yeah. Go for it, buddy.
Before we keep going here, maybe I do want to change my stance on the Max Verstappen running away with this because I didn't realize how close the points were.
Oh, super close, man. It's like 31 points, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. Listen, Charles is going to have to be great. Lando was going to have to be even greater. But yeah, I think the driver, maybe, you know what, especially after this weekend. Let me answer that question after this weekend. I'm changing my answer. Let me answer it after this weekend because apparently Red Bull is not going to be great here. And Ferrari and McLaren are supposed to be. So who of them is it Lando or is it Charles or is it Carlos or Oscar? Which one of them really steps forward as a challenger? And does Max benefit from the fact that they're fighting so hard to catch him that he's able to run away? I don't know. So you know what? I'm changing my answer. I think the Drivers' Championship, it's on. And you, Tim, you said it right. We're 9 races in? It's not over. Can't be over. So there we go.
You know what? You made some good points, Adam. Like I asked, I kind of talked to Oscar about this today because I had an interview with him as well, and he was kind of telling me he feels that like the Drivers' Championship for him is without it's out of reach. Yeah. But he also feels that McLaren could potentially catch Ferrari and possibly catch Red Bull as well. And for a driver to actually come out and say something like that, because he was pretty flat out with like, look, if this was this time last year, there's no chance we're getting anywhere near them, even with big upgrades that we brought to Austria and how well we did further on down the season. He said, but this season is different. He basically just said, we are way closer than we've ever been. We have a car that has a great platform, and we're able to do so much more with it. I also put it to Carlos as well. I think for him, like he made a good point, and I didn't really think about it, but missing Saudi Arabia with appendicitis.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Right.
If he hadn't have missed that, this could have been Max, Charles, and Carlos.
Wow. I forgot. Wow. That feels like years ago. Damn. Tim, this is exciting. Wouldn't it be funny if Williams gets a guy who wins the championship? Like Carlos who goes and wins and leaves Ferrari? What a great story. Anyway, sorry. I hope for that. Awesome. Agent of Chaos.
It'd be awesome. I'll take one more, and it's from at Mimo1022. If we get rain this weekend for this weekend's race, or if the track is cold and slightly wet, who has the advantage in the race? It's a great question. So in Montreal, for this particular track, they've resurfaced like the entire thing. Like it's brand new tarmac that they've laid down, where in the past this track used to be really bumpy. Now it's a lot smoother. I would say there's not a lot of rubber laid down on this thing either. Once we start to get rain, if it gets a little cooler, the surface of the track is going to get a lot slicker. I think we're going to see some surprises if we have rain for the entire weekend. I really do. Okay. I think we could see the likes of like Mercedes even getting up in there.
Hey man, it would be. I'm still having outside hope that Lewis Hamilton gets one more as a member of Mercedes. It'd be just nice for the nostalgia.
What a story, man. Imagine at Canada where he got his first ever Grand Prix victory.
Yep. And I want to say this, McLaren has the most ever wins at the Canadian Grand Prix. So not that I'm not rooting for them ever, but now I'm even rooting harder. Let's go. Extend the lead.
Well, also, Adam, if Lewis Hamilton were to win, he would then be the winningest driver at the Canadian Grand Prix. Currently, he's tied for first with Michael Schumacher, who has 7. Both of them have 7.
Wow. Okay. Tim Hauraney, we got an exciting weekend ahead of us, my friend. So
it's gonna be a good one.
Be looking out for Tim. Follow him on social media at Tim Hauraney. He's going to have all the interviews. He's going to have a lot of fun. And you're also going to be on the broadcast for TSN, are you not?
Yes, we'll be there. Be on the broadcast. Yeah, I've been on there all week. It's been great. Had a ton of time. Adam, I first ever hosted a block of SportsCenter.
Look at you. How did it feel? How'd it go?
I was crapping my pants.
But that's exciting.
I got lucky. I have a great producer. Jason Poulter's amazing. He's he and I have been working together on this F1 stuff for so long. We're a great team when we work together. And honestly, I don't know if I could have done it with any other producer because he's great at giving direction and he's great at like leading me in a way where the viewer gets so much from what I give out. But our other host, he was busy in Amsterdam. So he was busy in Amsterdam interviewing a lot of the Canadian soccer players because of, I believe it's Copa that's coming up and Canada's obviously playing in that. And so he was out there doing that. And then his flight got canceled. So he couldn't get to the track on Wednesday. And so they're like, well, Jason's like looking at me like, all right, you're going to host, big guy. Here we go. And I'm like,
I love that.
It was great. I had so much fun, man. It was great. I loved it.
Good for you. You got to do more of that.
Oh, I wish I could. Yeah, it was so much fun, man. I had a blast. It was so much fun. And then we had Marissa also came over. She was great. She came over and gave us a hand as well hosting. She's awesome. And yeah, we had a ton of fun working together. And yeah, it was great, man. Yesterday was a lot of fun. Today was a ton of fun too. Yeah, this whole weekend's going to be great, man. I love the Canadian Grand Prix. It's the best. That's incredible. Tim, you're becoming a star. Don't forget about us. That's all I gotta say. We'll see about that. All right, buddy. You have yourself a great weekend, and I can't wait to catch up on Monday. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.